So,
what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Weekly Top 5's from Library Chess Productions, and today we're getting our romance on. This is our top 5 romantic comedies of all time.
getting a little sappy up in here.
I love you.
I love you too.
I'm going to get things started here with my number 5 romantic comedy of all time, 2011's Crazy Stupid Love.
So my number 5 is 2011's Crazy Stupid Love.
Yes, all right. Sick. All right, so what I love about this, well, first of all, I love the cast. The cast from top to bottom is great. Steve Carell in roles like this, I absolutely love him. Julianne Moore, I just love in general.
And Gosling was coming into his own and getting respect that year.
Yeah. Emma, with the first, I think, collab between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Annalee Tipton is in the movie and she's really good. Marissa Tomei is in the movie and she's really good.
I forgot how many good actors.
Yeah, like this is a really, really, really good cast. And it shifts back and forth between a couple of different love stories, basically, and the love stories are certainly not clean and...
Yeah, it shifts tones.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does so well.
A lot of people, I think, criticize that as being unfocused, and I was like, no, I think it's just strong focus in multiple places.
Yeah, I think it did it well. I think that it was pretty fluid and, flowed well, but...
And it's one of those performance movies. I mean, it's a movie that's going to live and die on its performances, and so they insulated it with a great cast capable of great performances, and for the most part, they got them out of all of it. So that's about the extent of what I have to say.
That's pretty much it. I was just going to say it's charming. You throw a charming cast in there, and you get a charming movie.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I mean, look, Emma Stone is just like... I think we are both just adore her.
But it's interesting because, this was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of these people just were not where they are now, right?
No, you're right.
So it's kind of interesting to look back at them.
Yeah. So, since we had the same number 5, I'm going to move on and give you my number 4. My number 4 is 1997's Chasing Amy. And it has one of the greatest speeches, I would say, one of Silent Bob's greatest speeches, but I would think one of the greatest speeches in the history of comedy movies. The one about chasing Amy. It's just such a great speech, and it's an unconventional, obviously, romantic comedy about a guy trying to come to terms with the fact that his girlfriend's a lesbian, and it's not exactly the most you can't make that movie in that way today, because and even Kevin Smith will be the first one to agree with this. He's like, I was really ignorant about the LGBT kind of struggle, right? Especially at the time. And sure, he was casting light on it at the very least and trying to expose it. But he's like, even he'll be the first one to admit, he's like, man, I was really ignorant on the things that I was trying to talk about. But so that movie would actually, I would think, would do really well today, but would have to be done in a more modern, kind of a more modern style. It's not exactly one of Smith's strongest movies, at least not in my opinion anyway, but in terms of romantic comedies, I'll take something like this over a lot of what I see within the genre. So Chasing Amy is my number 4.
That's a good pick. You went with Kevin Smith.
I went with Kevin Smith. What a shock.
My number 4 is The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Okay.
Just, Judd Apatow doing maybe his best movie.
Yeah.
Or at least I think.
I think there's an argument.
It's funny.
There.
There's charm there. Carell is good.
Back-to-back Steve Carell.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of what turned me and maybe a lot of people on to Apatow.
At the end of the day, for this genre, that's really all that you need. It's just got to be funny, and there's got to be a romance element to it that you can really hook into. Cruising right along here, folks, I'm going to get into my number 3, which is last year's The Big Sick. Probably the best of the Amazon backed movies that I've actually had the opportunity to see on a big screen, because there's so many that we just don't get the opportunity to see in a movie theater. I mean, that real life romance between Nanjiani and Emily, and they're that story, for the fact that story obviously Hollywoodized at least a little bit, but the fact that story kind of happened and the circumstances around it, and the fact that they made that movie together about their own romance, and he plays himself. I almost appreciate the making of that movie and the creation of that movie as much as the actual movie itself. But when you get into the actual movie itself, it's such a great story. It's insulated by what you wouldn't think would be an amazing cast, but does a really amazing job. And he does, for someone who's admittedly not an actor, he did a pretty good job playing himself. So The Big Sick is my number 3.
Yeah, I don't love that as much as you did or a lot of people did last year, but it's definitely an honest movie, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. But you're right, the kind of making of is maybe even more interesting than the actual movie, I think.
Yeah.
My number 3 came as a really big surprise to me when I watched it, but it's the 5-Year Engagement. I really expected nothing from this movie.
Right.
I was really unaware of Emily Blunt at the time, and now she's become my favorite actress. And This was kind of maybe the start of it. The chemistry between her and Jason Segel was actually fantastic, and I'm not even like a big Jason Segel guy, really. He's fine in mostly everything I've seen him in. Just never really pictured him having that kind of chemistry and stuff with a talent such as Emily Blunt. But the movie was, surprisingly entertaining. And it was just one I just watched for the hell of it, thinking it was probably going to be a crappy movie. And then I came out of it being like, I really enjoyed that. Because what it had, which is what every romantic comedy needs, is great chemistry.
Yes.
Keep harping on about the chemistry, but that's what you need. If you don't feel their connection, then what's the point?
Well, then you have a situation like Knocked Up.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay. That's good. That's it. See, that's one that I wouldn't have pegged for being on your list.
Neither would I.
Because I remember watching that movie, and I kind of the same thing. I was like, I kind of enjoy this. I like their dynamic, and he plays that kind of character really well. So I'm like, okay, yeah, there's definitely some stuff here to latch on to. This is an enjoyable movie. But yeah, no, for that to make your list, that's great. My number 2 romantic comedy of all time is a Michael Cera, Kat Dennings joint. Nick and Norah's Infinite Playlist.
Surprisingly good.
Surprisingly, yeah. Almost not shockingly good, because I like the Michael Cera trope, basically. And I call it a trope because it's he's, a lot of the time, he's not the same character, but he's pretty damn close. I love the storyline of Nick and Norah, and I love the way that story incorporates music and makes music such a focal point of each of them individually, but then them as a couple. Triss is a total bitch. She's a terrible, terrible person. And I also just love Kat Dennings and her large chest. No, I love Kat Dennings. She's not exactly what I would call a spectacular actress, but I love seeing her on screen, whether it's small screen or large screen. I just like her a lot. So Nick and Norah is my number 2.
That's a good choice. I also enjoyed the movie.
Nice.
My number 2 is Chasing Amy.
Oh, nice.
I don't really have much more to add, just that the writing was solid, and I guess Kevin Smith was ignorant during that time, but I don't remember exactly how that movie panned out in the story. Did he turn her? Or was she like, nah, this is the way I... Because, I don't ever remember thinking that the movie was ignorant. And maybe I'm misremembering it, but I remembered it being kind of like, she's a lesbian, and he's trying to change her, but she's like, nah, that's not how it works.
Well, I think she kind of, gives into it a little bit, and I think where the whole ignorance thing comes from it is, it's the story of a straight dude thinking that he's able to turn a lesbian, and the lesbian actually kind of acquiescing to it a little bit, and
Did she end up at the end?
No, I don't think so.
I can't remember how it ends.
I don't know.
I wish I could remember.
No, I'm pretty sure she doesn't.
That's the thing, I think maybe he's too hard on himself. Somebody watching this might be like, actually, this is what happened and you were wrong, and maybe I am. Like I said, I could be misremembering the entire movie because I have a bad memory. I just remember liking things or not liking things and some of the reasons why. But I just always seem to remember it as him trying and her ultimately being like, no. And I'm like, that's not really that ignorant. And what you were saying about what maybe he means is but there are people, maybe not as many these days, but there were certainly people back then who was like, oh, she's a lesbian, she just hasn't had me yet.
Yeah, oh,
It's
absolutely.
like, that's totally, like, just because, like, Kevin Smith writes that character doesn't mean that is Kevin Smith.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're right.
But then again, like I said, I'd have to rewatch the movie now to...
Everyone is their own biggest critic, and I think that's very true for Kevin Smith. Even though a lot of people are really critical of Kevin Smith.
People need to just acknowledge the fact that a character can be written, and that doesn't mean that the artist is saying that this is right or wrong or whatever. It's just like there are different characters. Like you could write a complete douchebag, and that doesn't mean you're a complete douchebag or you feel he's right. It's just there are people like this that exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're just a character. It bothers me when people are like, I couldn't like that character, you thought this. It's like, I mean, yeah, if you're totally fine to not like a character, but don't pretend like just because that character makes you a little uncomfortable or whatnot that it's not a valid character to have, because those people exist. Like I said, I just remember a certain way, and maybe that's not the way it happened at all, because I haven't seen that movie, and I don't even know.
It's been a while for me too.
Yeah, so Chasing Amy's my number 2.
We're here already, folks. My number 1 romantic comedy of all time, Easy A. And the movie that I thought of all the movies on this list, I would like the least. And that's the one that I hang the L on my chest for that one. Because I went into the movie being like, I'm not going to like this. I'm not going to like this at all. Second Emma Stone entry for me. But then I came out of the movie and I was like, why did I love it? Like, I loved this movie. And it's a coming of age story about, sex, relationships, deception, the desire to be noticed. Again, it was a movie that shocked me that I liked it as much as I did. And it's undeniable I gotta go with that as my number 1.
Yeah, I dragged you to that.
You did.
I thought, this looks good, let's go see it. It looks crappy.
And I thought the trailer looked terrible, and the one, what was supposed to be the funny moment from the trailer, which is a line about Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
I chuckled the first time, and then I never again, and I'm like, man, if that's the trailer moment, this is gonna be bad. But it was one of those lessons in never judge a friggin' movie by its trailer.
Yeah. Take a chance sometimes, and you might come out with love and Easy A.
I took a chance on Emma Stone, and it gave me Easy A.
My number 1 is 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
Not real romantic by the end of it.
No, not by the end of it.
But still technically a romantic comedy, I think.
Yeah.
And really, I was saying off camera, the only movie on this list that I could rank among, like, highly on the best films of all time. Well, maybe not highly, because there's a lot of films. But I mean, one that I legitimately adore. Not just as a romantic comedy, but one that I absolutely fell in love with that year that it came out, because wonderful performances and chemistry. The story doesn't go in the way that you'd expect. There's that awesome expectations versus reality scene, which is one of the finer movie scenes. I just really love that scene, that what he thinks is going to happen, what really happens, and then he runs away because he's like an architect or whatever it is. He runs into the street, and the whole world around him becomes like a drawn picture of the city and stuff, and I'm just like, that scene is beautiful, and like, I don't know if I've seen a movie that so represented heartbreak so authentically and interestingly. So, while it's not, he doesn't get the girl, or whatever.
Spoilers.
Sorry. Spoilers. I love that. So if it counts as a romantic comedy, that is my favorite, easily.
I'd have to count that for sure. Yeah, that movie is one that I don't think quite had the resonance with me that it had with you. I enjoyed it for sure. I haven't watched it since when it released, but I mean, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is quite high on my list of actors that I really like, and Zooey Deschanel or Zoe Deschanel, I think she pronounced it Zoe. Oh, she's so great. She's fantastic. All right, folks, that's going to do it for another weekly Top 5. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us down here, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.